think about how these things are going to happen. They are beautiful projects. They are beautiful projects. They are projects that we want happen in the country. The question that needs to be addressed, really addressed to make sure we get there, to get to this 2020 goal is, will it happen? How will it happen? Now these investments are fine. I mean, you need 1.34 trillion of projects. You just print the money and dump them into Malaysia and suddenly we become a 1.7 trillion economy. It doesn't happen like that. I wish we can just print money and become rich. We have been facing problems. To reach this goal of 1.4 trillion in projects, we are expecting 60% of that investment coming from the private sector. Or rather, 92% from the private sector, 60% of that private sector, and the 32% of that is the government private sector. What is the government private sector? Government private sector, you are referring to the government-linked companies. Now let's just take a very simple example of this 32%. Now 32% of 1.4 trillion ringgit of projects to be undertaken by GLCs. How much is that worth? Anyone can count fast? Okay, I counted beforehand, so I cheated. 448 billion ringgit. 448 billion ringgit. Now, if you take the market capitalization of all our GLCs added together, okay, we do not exceed 448 billion ringgit. So we are actually expecting our GLCs to be investing beyond their even their market capitalization. The whole Bursa Malaysia, including all companies, non-GLCs like IOIs, like your Gentings and so on, is 1 trillion ringgit. Okay? GLCs form probably about 30% of that. So we are actually expecting, okay, more than the market capitalization of all the GLCs added together. Now, is that achievable? It will be great if you can achieve it, but is that realistically achievable? We are facing a lot of investment issues over the past decade. Now, this is one of the reasons we are facing these challenges, and this is one of the reasons why we came out with this ETP. Good. So ETP must address how we are supposed to bring back this investment. Private investment has declined for the past decade compared to our peak. Our peak was in the 1990s, where we were the revered Asian tiger. Everyone looked up to Malaysia. We are economic tiger together with South Korea, Taiwan, and I can't remember which other country. Hong Kong or Singapore, one of those. At that point in time, private investment in Malaysia took up 33% of our entire GDP. 33%. Today, it stands at anything between 9% to 12%. It has dropped, and for the past decade, it has been fluctuating between that figure. We are looking at foreign direct investments. For those who read my blogs, I've written a fair bit about FDIs. 2009 was our Nade. Yes, we have recovered a bit this year, but the whole world has recovered. But it was our Nade in the sense that we have been losing out to many countries when we compare to our peers. Okay, of course, in Southeast Asia, we don't compare to Singapore. They are too small. They just attract too much money. Take Singapore away, let's compare to our neighbours, Thailand. We've been losing out to them since 2001. Never once did our FDI exceed Thailand's since 2001. Okay, take away Thailand, let's look at Indonesia. First time we lost to them, 2005. We beat them again in 2006, we beat them again in 2007, but we started losing to them again in 2008. And last year they achieved 4.4 billion US, we got 1.4, 3 times ours. Our FDI has declined from the peak that we achieved in 1996, that was 7.3 billion US dollars. Today it stands at 1.4. Now, that was a global financial crisis, but even with a global financial crisis, when we look at an economy like Singapore, which is greatly affected by international changes and trends, okay, they have increased their FDI from 9.2 billion or 9.1 billion back in 1996 to anything between 24 billion US dollars to 30 billion US dollars. Okay, even during the worst of the crisis period. So we need to bring back this money. And what are the measures that we can use to actually bring back this money? we need our economic reforms. There's no question about achieving all these projects without proper economic reforms. Now, what type of reforms are we talking about? I won't go into detail, I don't have time for that, but we are looking at competition. We are looking at open competition, we are looking at things like open tenders. Now, government must institute all these reforms. They should not be frightened, they should not be afraid of any sacred cows and anything that stands in the way of bringing about competition to Malaysia must be put aside. Must be put aside. Now, we have one of the biggest projects that is under Economic Transformation Plan. We know that Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, for those who have been to Kuala Lumpur, we don't have traffic jams like Jakarta or Bangkok, but we are getting there. We need an MRT system. Nobody denies the fact that we need an MRT system. This MRT system is valued at 46 billion ringgit. Now, when you think of that being the largest ever infrastructure project that we are going to build in the country, then you hope that we will be selecting the best companies to do the job. We will be selecting the top value for the lowest possible prices. And how do you do that? You make sure you have open tenders. The concern we have is whoever who is supposed to deliver the job for the MRT has already been selected. All the plans and proposals prepared by Pemandu, nice diagrams you will see on the website, I can tell you, they are prepared by a specific company in the private sector. So it's already a shoe-in. And this company, Garuda, has already told equity analysts. Now you can't lie to equity analysts, otherwise you're supposed to be reprimanded by the Securities Commission. They told them, we are 80% certain of landing the MRT job. Now we hope that the government will carry through its painful reforms. Okay? It will carry through its call for transparency. It will carry through its call to open tender to increase the value it can achieve for the government's funds. Without all these competitive elements, open tender, transparency, it is going to be very, very difficult to attract back all the investments that we actually need to deliver our delivery goals.
A lot of the powers has been taken away from the local councils. Local councils in Melbourne is extremely powerful. They can do a lot of things. They enforce strict rules until recently where buildings cannot be taller than 8 stories, 8-story size. I mean, they can do it to determine how their city want to be. A lot of people then say Adelaide's a backwater, but they choose. Okay, they got their councils elected. They choose how they want their cities to be. You don't like it, go somewhere else. But for people who like it that way, in a very livable, very sustainable, very easy pace, then they go to that particular city. Our local councils do not have that power. A lot of powers have been taken away. Even collecting and throwing rubbish has been taken away to the federal government. So the federal government decides now who gets the contract to throw rubbish from your house. We have new laws, federal laws, the sewage, the solid waste management system being passed. The other one was the indoor water. That was another key function of the municipal council, that means cleaning up your toilet stuff. That has also been taken away for a few years back as part of the privatization program that has since been returned to the government. So our municipal councils needs reform, and the reform comes in 2 ways. One, ensuring that the councillors are actually locally elected, okay, by the residents of the city, so the residents of the city have a say in how they want to develop the character of their cities. And number 2, in terms of powers to decide how this city can grow.